All right, what's going on, beautiful family? Welcome to another edition of J4 Conversations. We're typically two sons and two fathers chop it up about life. That's what we typically reserve for Sunday. But intermittently, I like to kind of get in and just connect with folks, just to kind of, stay busy and stay active on the platform. We're fathers who are having opportunities to discuss various themes and the coming of age process of the sons, but we also believe the platform will have some benefit to those who are parents of any age set, but particularly teenage boys who are kind of in the high school stage of life, or perhaps have graduated or at the beginning of serious adulthood, whether that's in college or just employment, whatever the case may be. But periodically, we also like to speak of things that are thematic to sons coming of age. And that's kind of what I want to do today. The title is Every Son Can Benefit from a Rites of Passage. And let me kind of state up front that I realize not everybody will go through a formal rites of passage, but for those who do, those young men who have a chance to formally begin something, go through a duration under the teaching and tutelage of elders, whether that's parents or adult figures that are managing the exercise, and then to come out of that something different than when they entered. Typically more informed, they've been tested, they've had a chance to get a sense of themselves, what they're able to accomplish, and they come out of that typically with new opportunities, new privileges, new assigned identities, and equally important responsibilities. And the normal construct of America does not typically provide for that. Because we're so many, I understand large populace, that you can't have a rites of passage program as a society. And so rites of passages are often done by subgroups within a broader society. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the society still has to manage its citizens, right? And so rather than formal evidence of mastery and readiness, America has to assign opportunities, privileges, new responsibilities based upon age, right? And so if you look at the first seminal age for beautiful young people, it's typically 5 years old. And 5 years old is associated with kindergarten, right? You go from nuclear family, nuclear support, typically being raised in the home or in some kind of daycare capacity. But that magical age of 5 is where parents get a chance to maybe rearrange their life. You know, they go from raising infants and toddlers, very high need dependency states of young life. And the 5 symbol is to begin to go outward, to leave the nest and to join in a communal age set in a very structured, formal kind of space called kindergarten, right? But that is the first seminal numerical age number that resonates across the society because it is the beginning of public introduction. It's the beginning of practice socialization. It's the beginning of joining with like-minded individuals and beginning to learn and to grow and to add in a whole new set of stimuli that will then be a part of that young person's coming of age process. The next symbolic age that is out there for beautiful young folks is that 15 and a half. 15 and a half is a coveted age for beautiful young people because that's the time they can then apply for their driver's permit. And again, as we've talked about in previous sessions, the driver's permit is the first major act of young independence where they can get mobile. They can drive that car and they can have some autonomy and a little bit of tool go and here and there and about. And so 15 and a half is another designation of kind of a coming of age process. Now they do have to test for that. So there's some evidence of readiness. And then of course the 6 months of driving, then the actual driving test at 16, which is the next seminal age. 16, if they pass that driver's test, they can roll, they can ride. And that's another major milestone in terms of an age set, in terms of the coming of age process. Now, interestingly, way much to a lesser extent, 17 is another number because that's when you can go to the R movie. Now check this out, y'all. You got to have your mama and daddy You can drive the car, but you got to have your mama and daddy buy your ticket to get into the R movie, right? So it's a little offset there. But 17, you can go to the R movie on your own. And then, of course, 18. 18 is another major age in young people's growth because it is an age of legal independence, okay? It is an age of legal independence, meaning in most instances, you no longer require your parents' signature in order to do what it is you want to do, whether that's college admissions, financial aid applications, signing contracts, employment kind of signature related things. 18 is just an arbitrary age that the society has put out there as a formal transition from teenager to young adult, and the opportunities that then come with that, or the real life next level opportunities that come with that. 18 is also a formal age where you can join the military. 16 is also associated with work. That's another major milestone related to 16. But 18, you can join the military, the armed forces, go and fight and potentially die for your country, right? So 18 is a major age set. And then finally, 21. 21 is kind of the last societal, legislated kind of age set, and then new opportunities and privileges and responsibilities are then assigned. 21, you can go to the corner store, you can get your sip, you can get your puff, whatever it is. 21, you can go to clubs that were previously forbidden to you, and based simply upon a birthday. Let the clock strike midnight, and now you have all of these new privileges and opportunities. It's interesting, and that is what you have to do when you're managing large societies. No real formal preparation for the next phase of life, just simply a manifestation of birthday cake. That's very, very interesting. So today is about something in addition, something added to that, something a little bit more structured that can help young people understand one stage of existence, go through something intentional, and come out of that ready for whatever the next phase of opportunities are, rather than just this anointment based upon birthdays, okay? So, what are some examples of rites of passage programs from my perspective? All right, I talked about it earlier. I would say the military. The military offers examples of rites of passage. Young men and women, they sign up. There's a ceremony of initiation, and then there are countless challenges of an intellectual and a physical nature for a set duration of time. There are generational interactions where you have established military people who are running the program, running the activity, running the indoctrination process, facilitating the learning and the challenges. And then once you finish boot camp, you're typically then entered into your next level of rank with celebration and high fanfare, okay? Those are pillar elements of rites of passage: an initiation, a formality, a humbleness that a young person subjects themselves to. They're then put through a structured set of activities for an articulated duration of time, and that activity is under the authority or leadership of people who are seasoned in what they're training you to become. And then at the culmination of it, assuming you demonstrated mastery, you've demonstrated the capacity to learn and understand what it takes to be in the next phase, whether that's membership or status, whatever it is. And then once that occurs, this evidence of readiness, you're then celebrated. You're celebrated. You're given the next rights and ranks of the opportunity. So the military is a profound rites of passage program. To a lesser extent, sports. Sports are often a way in which a student has some elements. It's not as rigorous or rigid as the military, but it is a beginning. You sign up for your sport, you go to the orientation, you have coaches and personnel that are there that are telling you what you're about to go into. Most sports programs have a beginning. It doesn't necessarily have celebration and formality to it, but then you go through something that is both intellectual, all sport is intellectual, but also physical, of course. In fact, sport is very physical and a great thing for beautiful young people because it allows them to test themselves in terms of a physical sense, and you can evaluate immediately because all physical transaction, you then reflect upon it once the physicality is over, and one can measure and make adjustments. And then as the season goes, when it's over, if you win, there's certainly high celebration. But even if you don't win, there's typically motivational talk. There's lessons and life learned, and then you celebrate, in kind of the closure of each season. So sport is also a space where a form of rites of passage can occur. It also has the two generational dynamic: coach, young person, coach providing information, young person humbling themselves, subjecting themselves to the learning. Okay. Now, other forms of varying nuance are religious. Religions often have age set rites of passages for their members, right? You might think bar mitzvah. You might think the quinceañera at 16 years old for young ladies. You might think in terms of the Mormon religion, there's the mission that boys will take, and that's a hell of a rites of passage. They're celebrated. There's certainly the training and preparation for wherever they're going to travel. There's this intellectual element, just the movement, the bike, the conversation, those elements of physicality. And then when they return home, obviously there's celebration. That is a major, it's a 2-year-long period where a young man goes away, an old teenager goes away. And after this intense, independent, self-living for their particular purpose, and they come back distinctively elevated in terms of who they are. Same way with the military. You see a young man kind of go in there sloppy, but when they come back out, they're tight because they went through something. So religious, not as extensive as the military course, but also they have rites of passages built into their construct. And then I wouldn't recommend this, but gangs, right? That's why so many young boys, particularly absent fathers in sort of tough kind of environments, are drawn to gangs, because gangs provide essentially an organization. A gang is very much like an organization. The main difference is that a gang has crime as an element. Gangs are defined by criminality, right? Where organizations are defined by whatever their mission statement is. But very similarly, they have hierarchy, they have symbols, they have ritual, they have structure, they have purpose, they have missions, right? So gangs are often spaces where rites of passages go the wrong way, but they certainly have a beginning. You have to humble yourself to it. There's an initiation process. I don't know if it's celebrated, but there's a hell of an initiation process all throughout. There's physical and intellectual management of gang culture. And then once you gain official status, you're in it and you get newfound privileges and opportunities. Wouldn't recommend it, but gangs are often rites of passages program that appeal to young men who are looking for structure, looking for definition, looking for membership. And it's also a note to say that, hey, young men want this, so it's in our best interest to have those kinds of opportunities so they don't select into sort of gang culture. Fraternities and sororities. I'm a member of a fraternity. My stuff was definitely a rites of passage. Humbled ourselves, went through the process, had an initiation that was ceremonious, very ritual, went through a duration of time. It was highly intellectual. It had elements of physicality built into it. And then once we demonstrated readiness for the organization, we were then brought in with high celebration, high fanfare, and we then had new opportunities of membership. So that is something I definitely recommend for college age men. Think about fraternities, young ladies, think about sororities, because these things definitely are formal rites of passage programs and are of tremendous value in creating leaders, because the educational process of the initiation ceremony is all about leadership development and connecting to, in the case of Black fraternities, cultural work and racial uplift. And then you have lodges. You got different, like the Masons, the Elks, these different kind of things where you have to be a veteran, or you have to join a secret society. All of these societies are going to have initiation, expectations in the middle, managed by seasoned members of the organization, and then once proven mastery, celebration in. And then lastly, certainly not, a form of rites of passage, but I would say martial arts. Martial arts. You're welcomed into the dojo. You're welcomed into the particular discipline of martial arts. You definitely go through arduous, rigorous physicality. There's certainly a mental element that's taught within martial arts. And then you're celebrated through belts, or you're celebrated through different symbols that you've mastered one stage, and then there's multiple stages for you to master. But for a young person to walk into something unfamiliar, to then be nurtured and cared for in a loving kind of way, which all rites of passage programs should have some element of, and to then be challenged and to have to perform, to have to ready yourself, to memorize, to demonstrate, to compete within a safe, structured kind of way, and to do that with feedback from someone who's older, seasoned, a veteran in that particular space, that's nurturing your growth and development, and then to acknowledge completion with celebration. And then the most important part is that you are then different than when you entered, hopefully better, and then you're ready positioned for the next phase. That's what a Rites of Passage program needs to be about. Now, within the Black community, right? We 40 million plus. That's a very big number. A lot of us simply come of age through birth dates. Everything I mentioned in terms of formal rites of passage programs are available to us, right? But, if you look at our culture, there's a historical bond that brings us culturally. There's an aesthetic, melanin, a culture, a nuance, language, musicality, a continuation of generational teachings and learnings, those kinds of things. But we don't have a centralized leadership. Historically, that might have been in our religious institutions, but increasingly membership is waning there. So where do we go for sort of rites of passage kinds of opportunities? Certainly there are national entities that are doing this in addition to what I talked about. But I know in talking with my peers, at some point, all of them think through, I want to do something for my sons that helps them go through a process that distinctively says you're leaving young teenage, you're leaving a stage of upper teens, and you're beginning to transition into an adulthood. How do I capture that? How do I symbolize that? How do I package that in a way with intentionality? Many conversations I've had. So over the next couple of series, I'm going to talk about possible ways to do that as a family. A family does not require you connected to an organization. A family can do it at your own style, your own pace, your own rhythm. You can involve your nuclear family in this process, but it is something that can be managed by mom and dad. So the next conversation I'm going to have is to take you through the 3 phases of Rites of Passage programs and to discuss it, how it might be done within a family kind of way, right? What would your initiation process look like? How is that personalized and customized to your individual family? What do you want the outcome to be? Because that'll influence what the experience is, and then what that experience looks like. Potential discussions around intellectual challenges, potential discussions around safe physical related kinds of challenges. And then once that is done, right, once your set of expectations have been mastered, how do you then transition your son and or daughter into the next phase of life? And what are those opportunities, privileges, and responsibilities look like? So I'm an advocate for rites of passage programs. I know that it's not available to everyone in terms of organized, go sign up, become a member of it. So I'm thinking through, how can we do it as families? How can families have rites of passages for their sons and or daughters? And I'll close with this. I appreciate y'all kind of riding with me on a Saturday. Please subscribe. We want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel, or if you're in Facebook, follow the channel page. Give us a like. Share outwardly, and definitely if you know some people who could benefit from this kind of conversation, share it with them as well. Please subscribe, share, like, and comment. Thank you so much for joining me. The last thing I'll share to think about as we go into the next part of the series is, what age should your son and or daughter go through a Rites of Passage program? I'm recommending 15 years old. When we talked about the warrior class, the 15-year-old age set is the beginning of this warrior class phase. It is also the stage where puberty is most likely at its conclusion. They've been through the voice change, they've been through the hair, the zits, they've already experienced body change, biological shifts. They're capable of producing a child, right? With that massive possibility, we got to intentionally prepare them for this thing called young adulthood. 15 is a magical age biologically, but it is also the year before the major symbol of independence, the car. I know as a parent, when you send your babies out there in that big old car, you're nervous. You're wondering, did you train them right? Are they capable of handling it? You got all these thoughts going in your head. And so a Rites of Passage program before that seminal stage of independence, I believe, will be very helpful in gleaning and assessing and impacting their maturity, and also realizing that they're leaving a stage of development 15 and before, and they're entering into the beginnings of their adulthood. What is a more adult act than the ability to produce a child? We have to prepare our young people a little bit more than just birthday celebrations. Let's be intentional. Let's join these macro Rites of Passage program opportunities if they avail themselves to us. But if we don't have that kind of access, or in tandem with it, let's create family-driven Rites of Passage programs. That's what the next two video series will be talking about. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Appreciate you on a Saturday. J4 Conversations coming at you. All right, beautiful family. Thank you so much. Let me know how you're doing. Give me a comment, give me a share, give me a subscribe. All right, beautiful family. Peace, love.